Hello and welcome to this Astranti financial training video. Today we are looking at the ACCA pre-scene. Now in fact this is a video series, so this is the first of 5 videos looking at the SBL pre-scene for June 2024. Now in the first 3 of those 5 videos, what we're going to do is take a really detailed, almost line by line approach to analysing the pre-scene to try and draw out all the important elements to make sure you feel as prepared as you possibly can for the SBL exam. Now the final 2 videos in this 5 video series are slightly different. In one video, we're going to be taking all the info we've learnt in the pre-scene videos, and we're just going to be running them through various tools and models to make sure you feel as prepared as you possibly can do. And in the final video, we're going to be explaining to you what we think are the most top 10 likely issues that you are going to encounter in the SBL exam, and we'll talk about the reasons why we think it's a likely topic that might come up, and we'll give you some ideas about how you may approach those issues. So there we go, that's the basic format of these 5 videos. So let's just scroll down now and have a little bit more of a detailed look about what we're going to encounter in the first 3 videos. So what we're going to be looking at today is Praecuro Vet Services. So they are a vet company in Ireland. And as I said, we're going to break this pre-scene analysis into 3 kind of separate 1-hour-ish videos. Now in the first hour, we're going to be introduced to the company. And we're then going to run down and have a look at the industry overall. We're going to look at any challenges that may be faced in the industry, and we're going to look at the various regulations and legislation that those involved in the industry have to face. Then we're going to move on and take a more detailed look at the company itself, its board, who owns it, how it uses technology, its relationship with its suppliers, etc., etc. And then we're going to look at the financial information. So that's kind of an extracted info, really. It's just kind of a summary of their financial information. And then we're going to look at various bits and pieces from their website. And then we're going to tie that all together. And then, as I say, we're going to look at all that information and run it through models and tools in the final 2 videos. So there we go. That's what's going to be happening in this video series, and by the end of it you're going to be feeling nice and prepared for what awaits you. So with all that being said, let's get cracking and get started with the first video. So let's scroll down to the intro. Okay, so the first thing we come to in this pre-scene analysis is the introduction to the company. And as I've already mentioned, what we're dealing with today is a business that is involved in providing veterinary services. Praecuro, that's how I'm going to pronounce it throughout the rest of the video series. Don't know whether that's actually how you do pronounce it, but let's go with it. Praecuro Vet Services. Now, one thing that we can notice pretty much straight off is that Praecuro holds a significant market position in the fact it's the 5th largest organization in this particular industry in the country of Ireland. And it seems to have a very stable foundation because it's been established for 32 years. I think that probably offers some kind of competitive advantage in the market. So there we go. That's a very brief introduction to the organization. What we're going to turn our attentions to now is the second section, and that's taking a broader look at the industry as a whole. So what we can see here is a very brief introduction to the industry. So I'm sure we're all aware that animal doctors are known as veterinarians, and there's also specialist animal nurses as well. Now, these 2 professions give healthcare to a wide range of animals. Now we can see a list of the animals here. We've got cats and dogs, which we'd probably expect, but there's other animals as well, which we might forget. Small mammals, birds, small reptiles, and types of rodent. So we can see here that this industry has got specialized staff, and they're dealing with a wide range of animals. And of course, all these animals are going to have different healthcare needs. Now, I don't know a lot about lizards, but I suspect they have kind of a different biological system to that of cats, etc. So we can see there's a huge amount of knowledge that members of staff are going to need to know. And we can see here that actually studying veterinary medicine at university takes a very long time, 5 years. No, I think it's pretty much, in England, it's pretty much the same to become a veterinary doctor, maybe even longer than it is to actually become a human doctor. So what we're dealing with is kind of highly qualified members of staff who are dedicated to healing animals. They're going to have a love for the career, and they love for the profession, because they're not going to sit around taking demanding exams and undergoing rigorous on-the-job training if they don't have love for the vocation that they're undertaking. So there we go. What we can see here, specialized staff are really important in this industry, providing quality services for a wide range of animals. Not just like doctors have to deal with one species, they're dealing with a number of different species. Okay, let's scroll down now to the services that are provided by veterinarians as a whole. Remember, we're dealing with a wider industry at the moment. We're not just dealing with Praecuro. Hopefully I'm saying the same way every time. So let's just scroll down now and get the services on screen. So the first thing we've got on screen are the annual vaccinations. Now, these are a really fundamental service that are provided by vets. And basically their role is to prevent serious diseases in pets, making sure that pets have long-term health and well-being. Now, what these regular vaccination appointments also provide are opportunities for vets to engage with their clients, and it gives clients an opportunity to talk about any concerns they may have, but it also gives vets and vet nurses an opportunity to talk about any additional services. So an example of this is I've got a cat called Primrose, and I have to take her to our local vets every year for her vaccinations. Now, we live quite near a farm. There's lots of stray and feral cats, so it's really important that she has that, because otherwise she could quite easily get sick. Now, we take her in for her vaccinations. We also pay for an extra service while she's there, so she's weighed and they check her teeth, etc. I talk about any problems she might have. Maybe she's not been very well recently, or maybe she's been sick and I've got some concerns about that. That's my chance to engage with the vets. But also, because I'm there, I have to come in there every year if I want to be a good pet owner. They then normally try and upsell me different things as well. So I also get things like flea and tick treatment. But then they go, oh, she's getting on a bit. Maybe it's time to start brushing her teeth. And I mean, never do it, because it's almost impossible to brush a cat's teeth, I think. But they try and sell you toothpaste and toothbrushes and all that kind of stuff. So these annual vaccinations are really, really important. They're a really great recurring revenue stream for vets, but there's also this kind of opportunity to touch base with the clients who wouldn't otherwise be there unless there was a serious illness with their pet. Maybe they've been hit by a car or something as like an emergency. Okay, the second one is the diagnosis of health conditions and diseases. So this is a really critical service that's provided by vets, because accurate diagnosis means that pet owners can have effective treatment plans, and it just makes sure that pets get the care and attention that they need. Now, this does tie in a bit to advances in technology, such as digital imaging and lab tests, because they've all improved diagnostic capabilities within veterinary practices. So I also know of another pet owner that has a cat who had terrible problems with their teeth, couldn't really eat properly. But in our local small town vets, they had different tools that could kind of scan the cat's head and check their teeth, kind of really without a vet kind of having to get in the mouth and all that kind of stuff. So these technological improvements are really helping pet owners get kind of the security and knowledge that they know their pets are being taken care of very well. And in fact, treatments are just improving. And life expectancy of pets is improving. Okay, the next topic we have is medical treatment once a condition, disease, or injury has been diagnosed. So we've just talked about this diagnosis. So that's where the illness has been kind of understood and interpreted. And now what happens is the medical treatment is the cure. So basically the vet's going to give out prescriptions or medications, or they may perform surgeries, or might just have to provide ongoing care. So again, this is improving the pet health, but also the client of the vet is thinking, hold on, they're looking after our animal really well. We're going to stay loyal to this vet. They seem to really care and understand about animals. The next one we've got on screen is the prescription of medication. So again, this helps to continue to build trust, because obviously prescriptions ensure that pets are receiving not only the correct drugs, but the correct dosages of drugs. And of course, that means that, fingers crossed, the pets are going to recover and get back to being their old selves. Prescription control also maintains safety and compliance with regulations. So you're kind of showing your expertise as a vet, your knowledge, and all those years of training, making sure the regulations are followed. And of course, by selling the prescription drugs, which is our next one down, as well as non-prescription medicine, it means that the veterinary practice is receiving revenue, but also the clients can go to this vet as a one-stop shop. It's not necessarily like humans going to the doctors, then having to go to the pharmacy to pick up their prescription. The vets can provide it all in-house. The next one we've got is routine surgical operations. So these are really important for preventative healthcare and treating various conditions. I mentioned cat's teeth earlier. Probably going to talk about a lot about cats throughout these videos, I'm afraid. I'm a cat lover. I've had cats throughout my life, so I'm more aware of what vets provide for cats in veterinary practices. And of course, with teeth, cats eventually have problems with them after a while as they get older and older and older. So kind of this routine operations is to remove these teeth. They have to be under anesthetic to do so. Another one is often you get cats spayed, so you're not having litter upon litter upon litter of kittens. These are just routine operations that are provided day in, day out in veterinary practices. My grandfather owned a veterinary practice. It's kind of what he did. He used to do my cat's operations on the kitchen table. But I'll save that for therapy rather than talking about it in these videos. So obviously all these operations are routine, but they still require skilled veterinarians, veterinary nurses, and specialized equipment. The next service that is provided by vets are referrals for serious medical issues. So these are kind of complex surgeries or specialist services. They may, or this is vets, may refer the pets to specialists. This just makes sure that the pets are getting their best possible care. And also this is building a strong network of veterinary professionals within the country, within the area, within this case, within Ireland. And then we've got guidance and advice on pet care. So as I mentioned earlier on, sometimes when I go for the checkup, I talk to the vets about what's best for my pet. Diets change throughout their lifetime. Are there any exercise issues? Is your cat never going outside, just eating? Are they getting bigger and bigger and bigger? And basically trying to talk about preventative issues to stop them having to undergo kind of the surgeries and the more complex, invasive procedures that you don't really want them to subject to. And of course, this just means the pets stay healthy, and obviously you're building that relation up between clients and vets. And you're seeing the knowledge of the vets. You're thinking, well, this is a practice I trust. I'm going to continue to return to them over and over and over. Another service that vets provide is sales of specialist pet food. So these are normally linked more to kind of health issues. So these are foods that kind of will help with food issues, rather than just being about kind of taste and flavor like you may see in kind of pet focused shops like supermarkets, where the quality of food on offer isn't as good. The quality is normally much, much better in veterinary practice, and they play a vital role in making sure that pets' conditions are managed so they're not suffering from allergies or age-related problems or issues like obesity. Now, of course, not only is this really good for the animals, it provides another revenue stream for the clinic in being able to sell this kind of specialist, more expensive food that you can't buy in places like supermarkets, where otherwise a pet owner may be buying the food. And the final service provided by vets is sale of accessories. So this is more of a kind of diversification of the product offerings for the vets. We're talking about things such as bedding or pets cages or pets toys. So hopefully it means a better quality of life for pets and their owners, but also the veterinary practice is able to increase their revenue streams through a different product range. So there we go. That's the services that are provided by vets. Now we can see down at the bottom, just under here, we can see that, as we've talked about, these are normally provided via consultations with a veterinarian or a vet nurse. We're going to talk about this more later on. And the consultations with the veterinary practice are normally booked on the telephone or online. And in Ireland, the average consultancy time is 15 minutes. So this is actually when you are in a veterinary practice talking to the vet, normally takes about 15 minutes. Now, I should just say we're going to talk more about online later on. I've certainly noticed that, I suppose with everything, veterinary practices are encouraging more online use. And now I get texts from my vet saying, hey, it's time to update Primrose's flea treatment for this month. So it's very much more technological, and I suppose takes the pressure off the veterinary practices having to actually have a vet ring up or a vet nurse ring up. So there we go. There's the services provided. Now we can drop down to the market structure. Okay, so what we can see here is the market structure has changed in Ireland. So traditionally, you had small businesses that were run by the vets, maybe a partnership of vets. And what would happen was this kind of small practice would enable vets to kind of build up a really strong relationship with their clients. And so the clients would return to the practice because they knew they were going to get good care. Then they'd probably recommend the practice to their friends and family. And that growth would be very slow and very organic. Now, it's what happened in my grandfather's practice when he opened it. It was very small. He had a kind of small animal service like pets, cats and dogs, etc., just like we see with our veterinary practice here, but also offered a large practice for the farmlands in our local area. And of course the farmers would talk and then he'd get more business through that way. But what we can see in Ireland is due to the number of pets increasing, then, gone mad there, the size of the businesses began to grow. And what happened was large organizations swooped in and have purchased smaller organizations in a bid to increase efficiency and to save money. And that's just, again, what we've seen in our local area. My grandfather sold his practice, and that practice is in turn being purchased by a larger veterinary practice who now own lots of veterinary practices throughout towns in the southwest. And of course, they're able to save money because they're operating more practices, and they're able offer to, I'm going to restart that. They're also able to offer, there we go. Why is that such a tongue twister? Greater kind of services for their clients. So there's kind of complex operations that we were talking about earlier on. But In Ireland, this acquisition activity looks likely to continue over the next 5 years. But that's not the only thing that's altering the market structure in Ireland, because we can also see that multinational organisations have come in, and especially those with pet food divisions. So they see, okay, lots of people are making money in this sector, and they've begun purchasing vet businesses. And one reason for doing that is that they can sell their pet food products that they manufacture directly to market. And again, they're expected to continue their expansion through acquisition activities. So you can see this entry of multinational companies is only going to increase competition in this sector, as well as drive innovation and improvements to service quality. And it's also worth bearing in mind that these multinational companies are also going to be bringing large amounts or significant resources to the table, and they're also going to have lots of money to spend in marketing. So we can see that a lot of things are changing to that traditional market that we first saw, where it's likely just a vet or a vet and their partner in practice servicing a small area. Kind of, I suppose, what we see in the kind of English GP market now. You have the GPs, and you have the people that go to them directly in that area. Okay, let's scroll down to continue the market structure. We just got a few things to add on. Okay, so what we can see on this page is that 3 multinational organisations control 52% of the Ireland pet vet services industry, and they are nationwide in Ireland. And there's also 3 large independent vet organisations, and they own and operate clinics on a regional basis. And there's also hundreds of smaller businesses that are employing less than 10 people who are operating locally. And we can see here we've got a market share by revenue of the major players in the Ireland pet vet services industry as of the 31st of March 20x4, and we can see the main the group with the main market share of the Gloas group. Then we've got the Bellston group. Then we've got the Hude group. So we can see they're the people or the multinational organisations that are controlling 52% of the market. And then we've got the 3 large independent vet organisations, Dennis Vet Clinics, Praecuro, that's us, Vet Services, and Good Health Veterinarians, all are under less than 10% of the market share. And we're in the middle of those independent or the large independent vet organisations. So what we can see here, that we've got a kind of a dominating few large players. That, of course, can impact the competition in the market, it can impact pricing strategies, and it can impact service quality. And it also suggests there's significant consolidation in the market. Now, we could just go down and see here, the pet vet services industry employed almost 36,000 people in Ireland and generated 2.5 billion Ireland dollars. Okay, so let's scroll down now to the industry outlook in Ireland. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be looking at here is revenue. And we can see that revenue in pet vet services over the last 5 years has been 3.5%, but that's going to increase to, or the expected increase to 6.8% over the next 5 years. So what we're seeing here is a really robust and expanding market. And that's because of a couple of things, really. The first of those is the levels of pet ownership have been increasing over the past decade, and the ownership is expected to increase at even faster rates over the next half a decade. And of course, that means there's going to be more demand for services because there's more animals. And also, the second reason for this growth is something we've already touched upon, and that is technology, health, are all improving pets' lifespans. Okay, so longer pet lifespans, better treatment and care means that people are going to be using vets more often. because if your cat's life, for example, has been extended by 5 years, of course, they're going to use a vet for 5 more years. If there's more medicine and tech that can help cure animals, then of course clients are going to pay for that to help let their pets recover from their illness. So there's kind of 2 broad strands here driving this revenue increase, the levels of pet ownership and the kind of improvement in healthcare. Now, another avenue for revenue growth comes from pet healthcare plans. Now, what this means is if you're taking your pet in because they're ill and maybe that's costing quite a lot of money, let's say they need an operation that's costing something like £1,000, well, it means you can spread the cost over a period of time, and that means that clients are more likely to say, yeah, okay, let's go for this plan, because maybe otherwise they just couldn't afford it, and maybe they would have to sadly put the pet down. But now these kind of flexible payment plans, these healthcare plans, doesn't mean they have to, and it means they're far more likely to okay it, and of course that means higher revenue for vets. Okay, another thing that's impacting revenue growth in a good way for our veterinary practice are the changing attitudes to pets. Now, simply here, what we're seeing is a social change in that clients are willing to spend more amounts of money taking care of their pets than they have done traditionally. So they think that their pet health is a necessity, and so they are going to use a vet whether they can afford it or not. And of course, that's improved as well by being able to use these pet healthcare plans. So what we can see here are several reasons why people are kind of excited and expect the market to expand. Kind of a range of social attitudes as well. It's going to be really interesting, I think, when we do a pest day model in our strategic analysis video, because we'll really see some social impact on the model. Okay. Let's go down now to costs and clients. So that we can see in this cost section that there are significant fixed costs, because we've got staff costs, and of course we need to train the staff, and they're the biggest costs incurred by the vet organization. And that's because we've already seen the veterinarians and the vet nurses are highly skilled professionals. And so that means they're going to demand higher incomes than those that haven't had to train for 5 years and to undergo continual training, and also in kind of repayment for the responsibilities that they have in looking after these pets, which is so important to people. So obviously veterinary practices are going to have to offer competitive salaries in order to attract and retain talent. And these high salary costs, of course, really do impact on the pricing of the veterinary services, as well as the overall financial management of the clinic. But of course, it's not just staff costs that we have at veterinary practices. We also have the costs associated with the medical equipment and supplies. So we're going to be having things from x-rays to everyday medical supplies, like those little plastic cones that you see around dogs and cats' necks. Now, of course, these costs are going to be substantial. They're also going to be ongoing, and sometimes you're just going to have to upgrade the supplies as well when something else comes onto the market. So these high costs associated with medical equipment are going to necessitate careful financial planning within the organization, and can also impact the range of services that a clinic can actually offer. Now, of course, that also ties into the fact of organizations being acquired, because of course then they can benefit from the economies of scales for these medical supplies, as well as things such as diagnostic tools, which maybe could be at one clinic in the kind of little group, and clients could take their pets to that one practice in that group. And the final expense I've noted on screen are the other costs, and these include things such as admin, health and safety, and the actual premises themselves. Now, of course, we want to make sure that you've got a really clean and safe veterinary practice, because of course you're dealing with health, so of course you need it to be clean and running efficiently, but also you want it to build client trust, because if you're taking your beloved pet into a veterinary practice which is filthy and has signs peeling off the wall and the lights aren't working, well, you're going to think, what's happening out the back if this is what it's like out the front? And you're really going to lose client trust. So this is another area of costs in order that a veterinary practice sustains service quality and client satisfaction, and just to make sure that clients keep on coming back to use your practice. Okay, the next thing we've got down on screen is to do with the clients, and what we're seeing here is that the ownership of pets, the demographic is changing, and we can see that 60% of new pet owners in Ireland in the last 5 years are aged 16 to 34, and historically pets have tended to be owned by those over the age of 35. So I think what we're seeing here is perhaps previously pets were owned by families, so you get to age 35, you have a child and then a pet. What we're seeing now is much younger people are having pets, maybe even when they haven't got families. Maybe it's an ownership thing, they just got it by themselves. So that's quite a significant change in clients' behaviour. And we're also seeing here how they choose their practices. So they want clinics which they can travel to easily. So if there's an emergency, obviously they can be there really quickly, and they can also minimise transportation time for their pets. Now, my cat Primrose used to go to a vet practice on the other side of town, a cheaper veterinary practice, but she is such an awful passenger in the car. It drives me crazy. She meows and does various other things that are really not pleasant within a car. So I've had to choose a veterinary practice that's closer, so I can relieve the stress on her and on me when I'm taking her. So I'm going to a more expensive veterinary practice just so I can minimize my transportation time for her. So that's absolutely a valid reason. And there we're going to be thinking about, well, where should we be positioning our veterinary practice, etc., etc. And clients are also looking for convenient consultation times. Okay, so we want to, evenings and weekends. You want these consultation times to fit around your jobs. But of course, what that means for vet organizations is that now they're having to increase their costs by extending their opening hours. Now, something I put on the bottom here, a little note, just links into what we spoke about just up on screen about pet owners' behavior changing in regards to how they feel about ownership, that their pets are a necessity, they're almost like family. Well, of course, understanding this behavior is really useful for veterinary practices, because by understanding this behavior, by appreciating how important animals are to their owners, well, then it can mean they can plan for stable revenue streams. That means they can plan for sustainable growth, and it also means they can start to think, oh, well, how can we monetize this? How can we develop a premium service that's tailored to these owners that really love their pets, that perhaps there wouldn't have been any take up for in the past? And then we just scroll down to the final part of clients, and that is clients benchmark consultation fees charged by organizations in the same area. So in order to keep fees low, vet organizations often mark up the medication prices rather than increase the consultation fees. So you can allured in by the consultation fees. And that's exactly what happened to me when I talked about this cheaper veterinary practice. Really, really cheap consultation fees. But of course, then they upsell you or recommend a lot of expensive products. Okay, so our next element is going to be challenges. I'm going to say challenges within the industry in Ireland. Okay, so we've got a number of challenges that we've got on screen, and I've kind of summarize them with titles in the red. So the first set of challenges we've got are the recruitment and retention challenges, and that's for the veterinarian staff. And the reason for that, or the two reasons for that, are firstly, ironically, is the reasons why there's growth in the industry is the number of pets in Ireland. So there's simply not enough people training as veterinarians to kind of fulfill this growth in pet ownership. And that's because of the high costs involved in training to be a vet over those 5 years that we found out about. Now, this in turn has a knock-on effect to stress levels, and in fact what we can also see here slightly lower down are the higher turnover rates, because there's not enough staff. You have the knock-on effect to the staff that are already there, simply just can't do everything that they need to do. And this impact of long working hours is also involved with those that are clients that are demanding more care. We saw in the previous section, didn't we, that clients are looking to have vets that fit around their working hours, so into evenings, the work on weekends. So they're having to work longer hours, and there's not enough staff anyway. So you can see stress is going to be a problem, and of course that means staff retention normally follows. People leave the industry, and of course that exacerbates the problem of recruitment. Another issue that they're facing during these challenging hours are the negotiations with pet owners who can't afford treatment. So that's increasing stress on the staff. The next challenge I've titled are client loyalty issues. Now, client loyalty is notably low within the industry, and that's because of the intense competition that we've seen amongst clinics. So factors like fees, quality of care, the range of services offered, and the opening hours offered to pet owners kind of increase and drive this competitive environment. Now, we have seen industry consolidation reducing competition to some extent, but as we're now going to go on to see, alternative channels continue to pose a significant threat. So let's just scroll down. So we've got the alternative competitive channels more centrally on the screen. So what we've got here are sources of competition. So things like large budget pet superstores. So they're offering vet services. We've got one near me, big kind of pet supermarket that at the back has veterinary practice offerings, but in front of those you have to walk through aisles and aisles and aisles of pet food and pet product and pet ranges, just like a normal supermarket really. And we can see here that in Ireland there's Best for Pets and Pet Fair. They sell a wide range of pet food and pet accessories at a low price. And they've also got store staff who don't have vet training also offer general advice about pets. So here they haven't got the vet's practices at the back of the stores like I've got in my hometown. But obviously, if you've got these large superstores offering pet food at lower prices, then that increases the competition on the vet practices kind of offering these premium quality foods. Because when I was talking about earlier on, I was talking about supermarkets, wasn't I? The vets have a better quality offering than kind of our supermarkets in England. But these guys, Best for Pets and Pet Fair, are going to sell all kinds of pet food, from cheap food to premium food. And of course, that may mean that they can offer it cheaper, and so people choose to purchase there instead of at the vet practices. Another challenge they're facing in source competition are online pet medication providers. So what you're doing, you get your prescription from the vets, but then they take those prescriptions, they go online, they buy it, at the right dosage, the right medicine, because they've got the prescription, so everything's nice and safe. They buy it from an online retailer at a significant discount, because they're specializing it, because they don't have any premises, because they're not having to pay the salaries of vets, they're not having to stock their surgeries full of equipment because they don't have surgeries. They just got a warehouse with these medications, so they can offer them more cheaply. And of course, if you can buy them more cheaply from online, then you are less likely to buy them from the vets themselves. Now, this is true in many, many industries. I, for example, bought a recent pair of prescription sunglasses from online. I got my prescription from my opticians. Didn't want to buy them from the opticians, too expensive, didn't have enough choice, so I took them online. Exactly the same thing here. And the final alternative source of competition is telehealth. Now, telehealth is a kind of electronic communication and IT that enables healthcare professionals to provide healthcare services remotely at a distance. Now, this does apply to pets in Ireland. There's several telehealth providers in Ireland offering services to their own clients or on behalf of their organisations. So there's remote services via telephone, web chat or video consultations, while others do the mix and include that with face-to-face services. So again, vet practices are facing competition on a number of fronts, and what we're seeing here is really focusing on making these services cheaper so that the vets are not able to diversify their offerings and still having to bear the prices of the high salaries, but aren't able to sell cheap products. And then the final challenge I've got is slightly down here, is environmental concerns. Now, this is an emerging challenge because the industry has a substantial carbon footprint. That's because of waste production, resource consumption, and the use of medications. Now, in Ireland recently, there's been some negative press about a kind of parallel industry, the human healthcare industry, focusing on the environmental impact. Now, of course, the concerns that the human healthcare industry have are surely going to be echoed by the pet vet services industry because they have similar wastages. You know, they've got waste production, resource consumption, and medications usage. So they could face similar scrutiny, and so they may have to proactively bring in measures to address these environmental issues. In fact, I'm seeing on Instagram at the moment kind of pet food offerings, kind of more from independent providers that aren't in supermarkets, kind of selling themselves on the fact about how they're avoiding the use of food wastage. They're making smaller meals, tasty meals, and they're recycling lots of things. So the impact of feeding pets isn't as high. So obviously these environmental concerns are really starting to seep into the pet industry in some form or another. So we've got a variety of challenges here that are going to require strategic efforts to focus on improving staff recruitment and retention, try and improve client loyalty, and try and mitigate the threats that we see from the alternative channels and also the environmental concerns. So there we go. There are significant challenges to be faced in the industry. Now, before we move on, you can just see I've put a couple more phrases on screen there. The current stage growth and the transition to maturity. And that's because I think this is probably quite a good time to talk about the life cycle, because we've talked about the competition, we've talked about the makeup of the industry, about the big providers, we've talked about how it is changed over time, and we've also talked about the challenges faced in the industry as a whole. So I think before we move on to innovation and developments, I just want to quickly flag where I think we are in terms of the industry life cycle. Now, of course, there's 4 stages to the life cycle: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Now, I would say our current stage is growth, but we are transitioning towards maturity. Now, the pet vet services industry in Ireland, I suspect is in the growth stage, and that's because it's characterized, with the growth stage that is, by rapid market expansion, increasing competition, and significant acquisition activities. Now, what we've seen, haven't we, so far, is that over the last 5 years, the industry has seen an average annual revenue growth of 3.5%, and the projections are for even more, growth levels possibly of 6.8% for the next 5 years. So the stage is continuing to grow. More people are getting out pets, etc., 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 all the things we talked about. But we're talking about transitioning to maturity as well. Now, the reason I think this is the market control suggested that the market had a few large multinational organizations in control of the majority of the market, 52%. Now, as the industry matures, competition intensifies, and businesses have to focus more on efficiency and service differentiation in order to maintain their market positions. Now, I think that ties into what we were seeing about the challenges as well. One of the ways we can mitigate these challenges is to start differentiating our services. For example, there are environmental concerns. We could put that at the forefront. So that's why I flag it now, that I think the market is changing. And of course, to effectively strategic plan, you really do have to understand the industry life cycle stage. So in the growth stage, for example, companies should all be about focusing on expanding the market share, investing in innovation, and trying to leverage economies of scale. And as the industry transitions towards maturity, then the focus instead should be towards enhancing operational efficiency, differentiating services, and sustaining competitive advantages. So we can see here we've got a number of those elements, and that's something for us to bear in mind as we move through the rest of this pre-scene and also into our strategic analysis video, and also as you go into the exam. Okay, so let's scroll down now and analyze the role of innovation and technological developments in the pet vet services industry. Now, technology is often recognized as a major challenge, but also an opportunity for the industry to enhance service quality and operational efficiency. And you can see I've kind of split this topic up into different headings. And the first of those are technological challenges and advances. So what we're seeing here, I just highlighted on screen, is the advances that are happening in human healthcare, like AI and machine learning, are expected to filter down to the vet services industry. And of course, these technologies are going to enable more advanced medical, surgical, and diagnostic pet vet procedures. But, of course, that has a negative downside. Although we're going to improve pet health, pet well-being, it does mean that the industry is more capital intensive. And that means that more investment in new equipment and also in training in order to kind of reap the expected benefits. Now, of course, the expected benefits are on the services, on service delivery. So hopefully what this new tech is going to do is reduce consultation times for certain procedures because they're getting more efficient at carrying out the operations or the procedures or whatever it is. It should mean that vets are becoming more efficient. So that means that pets should be treated at a lower cost to clients. And hopefully that in turn should balance the initial investment in technology with the long-term operational savings and enhance client satisfaction. And if I can scroll down a little bit more as well, there's also an impact, on business management and client communication. This is all about streamlining communication and systems and management of records within practice more efficiently. And of course, we've also seen, as I've already mentioned, vets utilizing communication technology more effectively. We could see this actually in the pre-scene too. The Glowis group, the Belstow group, and the Hughes group are using digital technology to market their services more effectively too. So the groups are going to be using social media, targeted online advertisements, and client management systems that facilitate better engagement and service delivery. And the final thing to note here, the final thing that's written in the pre-scene anyway, is with regards to telehealth. Now, we've already talked about it, but it is another technological advancement that is challenging, disrupting, and transforming the industry, because they're using electronic communications and IT so that veterinarians can provide remote consultations, give advice, and even supply some diagnostic services. Now, this obviously increases flexibility and convenience for clients, which is something we saw that they wanted. They wanted a practice that fitted around their work, but it also helps in managing clinic workloads more effectively. Now, it's something I have with my life insurance. I could phone up my doctor, or I can get a video consultation. I book it in. I can be anywhere in the world and they can contact me. I can do that for my family too. So it's something we're seeing again that's happened in kind of the human healthcare and is drifting down now into the pet services. So there we go. That's technology. So I think what we can see here is that the integration of these advanced technologies into our veterinary practices can give us a number of strategic advances, because clinics that adopt these different technologies are able to differentiate themselves from their competitors because they're offering higher quality and more comprehensive services. But that's got to be balanced by the fact they have to also manage the increased capital requirements and also make sure they stay on top of training so the staff are adequately trained to use the tech effectively, because otherwise, if they're not, then they may as well not have invested in the machinery. Now, the final thing to mention is talking about the digital marketing as well as the telehealth are important ways to increase client engagement, to make clients loyal, and also to give another competitive edge in what we know is a crowded market. So there we go. That is our final section on tech, and I think that's pretty much everything that we need to cover in this first video on the pre-scene. When we come back, we're going to finish off the industry. Well, we're going to finish off the section on the industry, and then we're going to move on to look more specifically at our own practice. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching this first video in the pre-scene. Come back for video 2. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you found it really useful, but you know there's 2 more videos to go in this pre-scene analysis. So I'm going to be doing 2 more full-length videos, picking out the most important bits of information so that you don't miss a thing, so that you don't have to, and so that you're fully prepared for your SBL exam. But that isn't the end. After then, we've got 2 more videos. The first of which is a strategic analysis video. And what we do in that video is take all the info that we've pulled out of the pre-scene and run it through some models and theories and apply it to the syllabus so that you go to the exam fully prepared. And in the final video, we pick out the top 10 most likely issues that we think you could encounter in the exam so that you know what to look out for, so that you can structure your revision in the best possible way. So there we go. It's definitely worth checking these videos out. Thank you so much for watching today, and good luck with your revision.